Hello, Sacred Family. I wanted to come on here today and address some questions that have been raised in conversations that I've had with various individuals. As many of you know who follow anything that I share, I'm a very big advocate for being a voice for the animals. I share these things with love, not judgment. Because I know that each of us, at least most of us, have been programmed from the time we were born, to eat them and not question, not to, it's the normal thing, And I got into a discussion with someone recently about this topic, and they suggested to me that I need to focus on more important issues that are happening around the world, like the Klaus Schwab. And for anyone who knows about Klaus Schwab and the agenda, it's mass control. We would be given digital IDs, like everything that we know of our world would shift into more control, more than we've experienced now in this new world order that those under this that are proposing this are wanting to push out for humanity. And yes, it's very disturbing. I know love will win, but it's something to bring us to an awareness of what's happening. And they suggested that I focus on that. Well, here's a question that I would like to propose. What if part of that agenda is telling us that we need to eat meat, animals? Because what if eating meat and, animals, it's flesh, keeps us in our lower energy centers? What if it messes with our energy centers so much that it won't allow us to rise up our sacred kundalini to be the Christ consciousness ourselves? What if when Christ said he was returning, he meant that the Christ consciousness, that knowing that we're one and that we are divine and that we are love and light, what if that is what he meant when he's returning in each of us, because we are one? And what if eating animals prevented that energy from rising and from us connecting and fully opening our hearts to compassion for all beings? I know we've been taught that we're better than animals, that we are, we have dominion over them. What if we're meant to be stewards over them? And that those with the agenda of control know that we're easily controlled when we are not able to access all of our energy centers. Our gut is our second brain. And when it's off, it does not fully connect to our main brain. What if eating animals and animal products and processed foods keep us stuck in a state that is less clear to connect with this brain? That's been my experience. My experience is when I set an intention to raise my frequency and vibration, my body automatically quit wanting to eat other sentient beings. It was like, once I set that intention, it was just automatic. I was still eating fish at one point, and I was on my spiritual path, and I said, my intention is to raise my frequency. My body automatically just went, no more fish. The only way that any of us can know anything is by direct experience. That's the only way. We can read anything we want and believe it. But unless we have a direct experience, we don't know it's true. And I know this because I've believed many things on my path that weren't true. My parents, when I was young, told me that Santa Claus was real and that he came down the chimney. And, eventually I learned that I believed it. And then I learned on my path that wasn't really true. I was also taught, that Jesus came and died for my sins. I have learned on my path that we are one and that no one can take away anyone else's karma. It's a law of cause and effect. If you do something harmful, you will have to experience that at some point, whether it's in this lifetime or another one. No one can just save you from your bad actions. You need to learn for yourself that those actions are not okay. And that's often how we learn, is through our mistakes, right? That's how I've learned. I have made so many mistakes on my path. When I look back, I go, oh gosh, I can't believe, some of the things that I did, not really integrating the knowing that we're one, that whatever I do, I'm doing to myself. And for me, it's the same with animals. What I do to them, I'm doing to myself, because it's not just humans. All sentient beings matter. All lives matter. And what if that blood sacrifice that we've all been programmed with doesn't allow our hearts to fully open? That it keeps them shut off just a little bit. And then we cannot keep that energy rising up. So it's all connected. Why am I so passionate about it? Because the animals, they don't have a voice. I do believe they can communicate with us. I know a gorilla that was taught sign language and communicated, and was very sad how low humanity's become, because we weren't always like this. Our history mostly is a lie. When you start researching and really digging deep, you'll find there are more questions than answers. But most of us are just taught to believe the mainstream narrative, not to question. And that's where we gain our power, when we question. Why? And I'm not perfect in, maybe the way I share these things, but I'm striving to do it in a loving, compassionate way. I was the same. I didn't realize many years ago, everyone did it. It was the norm, until I saw many documentaries and started, being on the spiritual path and asking questions and trying to figure things out. I just went along with what everyone else did too. Although I will say I was never a huge fan of eating animals. I did it because they told me I had to, it was for protein. You need this for protein. I think in my younger years when I did the basics. It was never something that I got so attached to. David, on the other hand, he did. He really, really loved, at one point on his path, eating animals. And what if eating animals, we're taking on their energy? And what if when they're killed, they're afraid and they're, all of the suffering that they experience gets stored into their muscles as a memory. And when we eat that, we're taking that on. And what if that affects us and creates anxiety and depression and even anger that we have to transmute? The more I've learned, live foods, live equals life. And why am I so passionate about this? Why? Well, a book I read years ago, I found in a friend's library. And it really intrigued me. It was a very thin book. It was called The Essene Gospel of Peace. And in this book, it was in the preface, supposedly from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, I can't verify this is true, but when I read the book, I felt the truthfulness in my soul. It was Jesus, what people call Jesus or Yeshua, teaching the people how to heal themselves. And here's one thing that I do know. I know this. Nobody can heal another. You can hold space for them. You can send them good energy, but you can't heal them. They have to accept that and shift themselves. It's like if you give someone Reiki that doesn't believe in it, it's not going to do anything. But one time I did it on a cat, and the cat had no disbelief, and the cat wasn't walking. And then the next day, my friend said, my cat's walking. Because the cats don't have those, limiting beliefs like, oh, this isn't going to work. I lost my train of thought on that one, but anyway. And so all of it comes together. It's all important, and it's all part of us raising up in our level of consciousness, of really remembering who we are. Several years ago, David and I were serving a sacred medicine ceremony. And I'd served several of them before, but this time was different. I felt the divine just coming through me, which we all are divine, but it wasn't me. I've learned certain songs on my guitar, and I was playing certain songs, medicine songs, and it wasn't that. I wasn't even playing my guitar at this point. It was just singing through me as its tool, like I was just a vessel. It was so beautiful. And it was telling everybody to remember, you are love. You are light. You are divine. Remember who you are. And so in this book that Yeshua, he taught us how to heal ourselves. In the Essene Gospel of Peace, he said to fast for 7 days. And there are many, many, many accounts in different scriptures of fasting and the, benefits of it. Our bodies can heal themselves when we stop putting in food. They're so magical. And when you do it and you realize the power that you have, realizing you don't need anyone outside of you to heal yourself, it's so empowering. And this is what Yeshua taught, to fast for 7 days with enemas. I mean, he didn't call them enemas in the book. It was hanging a gourd from a tree and with water and putting it in your anus until the, water is as clear, until it comes out as clear as water. And nude sunbathing each day. So this process of rebirthing, you rebirth your body and then only eat live food. And he said live equals life, dead equals death. Simple math equation. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But I didn't know it, right? I believed it. I didn't know. And I didn't do anything for a year because David, I told him about it and I was excited and he said, oh God, I don't want to do that. And so I told myself some limiting beliefs like, oh, it's going to be too hard to do on my own, all the things, whatever. So I told myself those limiting beliefs and I didn't do anything for a year. And then the universe brought me to a point on my path where I had no excuse, none. David was sent off to Mauritius and I was in Portland. My friend that I was staying with went to Mexico for a sacred medicine ceremony and I was in her house by myself for 10 days with no one to cook for, no one cooking around me. So I did it. I fasted, detoxed with the enemas. I didn't do the new sunbathing because it was in February, that first one, but I've rebirthed my body 3 times since then. So it's okay. And then only eat live food. I saw the difference. All the inflammation in my body went away. My perimenopause symptoms reversed. I had more energy, more clarity. The clarity was the biggest thing for me. When your gut is that clear, you can connect to this so easy, which is also your connection with your higher self. So when your gut is full of shit and full of, dead, rotting flesh, it's more challenging to connect and listen and hear your higher self's voice. And I don't just believe that, I know it. Because I experienced it. I went back, I tried cookery again, I ate cooked food, and I know it causes mucus in my body. And so, those of you who are still choosing to eat fellow sentient earthling beings, you cook them. That causes digestive leukocytosis. Would God create a perfect body that has things like cancer, heart disease, all these things from the foods we eat? No, he wouldn't. Would he? What if we've been eating against the way we were created to this whole time? What if a scientist named Paul Kochikov actually did a study and said, yes, the body produces zero digestive leukocytosis, which is white blood cells, an increase in white blood cells in the body when we eat live foods. And I'm talking fruits and vegetables, live with the seeds of life, with the water in them, because our bodies are mostly water. So when we eat foods that contain water, then our cells become more alive, vibrant, and filled with life. So this is why I share what I do. It's out of love. And if it offends you and if it triggers you, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the parasites from eating the meat. Because Yeshua, or Jesus, whatever you want to call him, called them demons in your body. You know why? Because they could literally hijack our consciousness and tell us what they want. And they'll tell us they want something sugary, or they want to eat meat, or alcohol, or these things that keep us at a lower vibration. And we're easier to control when we're in that state of addiction. Because we're not able to connect more to our spirit. So it all matters. And this is why I share what I do with love and probably a little Heyoka energy, because I have that too. So, and if you get triggered, ask yourself why. Because if there wasn't something in your soul that thought maybe there was some truth to it, you wouldn't get triggered. I love you.